Hello, my name is Professor Maggie Wenzel, and I am a professor of biology at Carthage, and I lead a program called, together with my husband, who's my co-chaperone, Dave, we lead a program called Healthcare in India, Traditional and Non-Traditional Healing. I'm putting together this video to talk about some of the logistical aspects of our program. Weather. If you were to ask people who go to India on a regular basis to describe what India is like, oftentimes they would say, well, India's hot. Actually, we're going in January, which is a great time to go because the daily temperature is probably around 70 degrees. We go to Delhi and to Varanasi and to Agra, and Varanasi is a little bit warmer, but generally speaking, these cities are about 70 degrees during the day. And in the morning time, it's quite cold. At nighttime, it's very cold. And we stay at hotels that do not have heating or air conditioning. So you'll get through it, but you do have to think about bundling up when you go to bed. I actually wear like 2 layers of clothes, maybe a jacket to go to bed. As I'm saying that, I'm like, oh, that sounds nuts, but that's how it is. It's cold at night. But at least you can bundle up, I don't know. When we're going out to outings during the day, I would suggest layers, especially if we're gone for several hours and we're far away from the hotel. You're going to want to take along layers because you'll have the ability to take off a sweater, for example, if it gets to be a little bit too warm at 2 in the afternoon, for example. So it kind of starts off super cool in the morning and then it gets warmer later in the day. One of the things you want to consider in India in January is that the air quality is fairly poor. This is right after the burning season in the fall when the farmers burn their fields in order to get them ready for the next set of crops. This is still a standard agricultural practice in India. And therefore, there are a lot of particles in the air. Now that I'm used to wearing a mask, I might actually simply wear a mask when we're in India through much of the day because my lungs tend to be kind of weak and I start coughing quite a bit by day 3 or day 4. So I probably will wear a mask. That actually will help quite a lot. Communication. There are definitely times during this program where we will be splitting off into smaller groups. The general philosophy of this is that we stay for a relatively long period of time in one city to get to know it fairly well. By day 3 or 4, I would expect students to be comfortable splitting off into smaller groups so that they can start to do their own day outings if they choose to do so. If that is the case, we still need to keep in touch, so communication is very important. I would recommend if you have T-Mobile or some other kind of a carrier with a free international texting plan, that would be helpful. My husband and I both have AT&T, so every single day that we text, we have to spend $10, and that adds up on a 15-day trip. Just so keep that in mind. We do not invest in SIM cards anymore. We've tried it enough times, can't figure out how to get them to work in India. It is a little bit of a convoluted system there with some rules that are a little bit unusual. So we don't do SIM cards, we simply use the plans that we have. You know, the beauty of it is that we do have the ability to actually use our phones. But if you don't have international texting and you do have to cover that $10 a day, that is going to unfortunately be out of your own pocket, just like it is out of ours. And download WhatsApp if you haven't already. Outside of the United States, there are many, many countries where WhatsApp is the primary form of communication. So if you ever want to get in touch with a guide or if you ever want to interact even with each other, WhatsApp is the way to go. We are going to have a set of guidelines. I believe there's 11 or 12 guidelines that we have in terms of demeanor and general rules for traveling around. But there are 2 biggies that you should be aware of right away. One of them is you cannot ever go anywhere by yourself. Not ever. You can dash into a shop if the rest of us are waiting outside and come back. Or in this last program that we ran, there was a coffee shop that was sort of right across the alley from our hotel. So if students wanted a quick coffee in the morning and nobody else was up to go with them, we allowed them to go across the alley to that. But that's about the extent of soloing of a solo adventure, you must have at least one other person with you every time you go anywhere. And the other big rule that we go by is no drinking. If you are of age, which is 21 in Delhi and 25 in Varanasi, I believe, then you can have a glass of wine or a beer with dinner. But being out at a bar in 2 in the morning, that's not going to be happening. That's not what this is about. My husband and I actually do not drink pretty much at all, very, very rarely, very, very occasionally. So it's easy for us. Just keep it in mind before you make the decision to join this program. No drinking. We require students to bring carry-on only. We cannot have you checking bags for a number of different reasons. Some students will balk at the idea of that because you're thinking 15 days in a foreign country that I'm not familiar with. I really want to make sure that I have everything in there. Deprioritize clothes. I'll get into more detail in that, when we're in person. I don't want to go on too much about it, but trust me when I say carry-on will be plenty. Will be plenty. You're going to want to prioritize shoes. You're going to want at least 2 pairs of shoes, one of them being something that's waterproof, like flip-flops, for example, and then one of them being a pair of really good walking shoes. If your flip-flops could be good walking shoes, that would be ideal. Otherwise, you might want a 3rd pair of shoes that are also walking shoes. And that's actually going to take up a lot of the room in your luggage, but you're going to be buying clothes there. It's going to be fine. Students oftentimes ask about culture shock. That is a real thing, especially when we arrive at a new city. Just be aware that there certainly will be culture shocks, but we sort of have strategies to get you through that as well, so don't worry, but there will definitely be some culture shocks. Food. We encourage you to try Indian food. You might actually want to eat out in an Indian restaurant before we go, just to try out think spicy and rich. Sometimes it can be hard on the stomach if you're not used to that kind of food. Pretty much every restaurant that we go to will also have other options such as Chinese food or Italian food, and sometimes burgers and fries and things like that. A question that I'm commonly asked, is India safe? And the answer is, it's actually pretty safe. You'd be surprised. The kind of rumors that you hear about the safety of this country, honestly, most of the things you hear about are rare instances that make the news. The thing that will probably get you the most are the touts. There are always people after you to buy things, and you have to think about how you're going to deal with that. But safety, you're going to feel safe. Will you get sick? I would say many people who land in India get what they call Delhi belly, which is sort of where you have to spend a little extra time on the loo, shall we say. But as far as, Montezuma's revenge, throwing up, like food poisoning level, that I haven't seen yet. It's the richness of the food and the spices and things like that, and just the newness of the food that might get to you. We tend to avoid street food for the most part. We have had students who indulged in street food quite a lot, but these were students who were sort of used to that level of variety in their diet, and they were just fine. You can't drink the water. You have to brush your teeth using bottled water, which I always forget to do. I know at least 3 different times I found myself brushing my teeth with the water from the sink, and I did not get sick, thankfully, but it definitely is a possibility. When you're taking a shower, of course you can take a shower with the water there, but be careful not to let too much of it go into your mouth. And then the other thing that you're warned against is things like, if you're eating street food, make sure that you're not eating raw vegetables. I've actually found that it's a pretty common garnish on the street food, so I haven't really decided what to do about that yet, but I haven't eaten tons of street food only because I've been so afraid. I'm the leader. I have to make sure that I stay healthy, so I'm pretty careful about it, but just be cautious about it. As I said, I do tend to get a cough when I'm in India, and so maybe the mask will help, but the air quality, just the particles in the air tend to make me cough. Dressing in India, you do have to be appropriate. I have seen people have the attitude such as, well, I love my body and I'm not afraid to show my body, and I'm going to wear short skirts and I'm going to wear sleeveless outfits. I just don't think it's particularly respectful. When we're in India and looking around, people tend to cover their arms and they cover their legs. Men and women, they tend to wear long sleeves and long skirts or long pants. In fact, women tend to bare their belly more often than they would show their legs, for example. So we are going to ask students to be respectful in terms of dress. It's okay to wear things like jeans, but you do have to cover, generally, your skin. Not every day is going to be a good day. There are unique challenges to traveling in India. We encourage students to have a good attitude going in. Open yourself up to the idea that not everything is going to go smoothly. We are still nascent to the Indian traditions and culture, and so therefore we don't always understand everything that's happening. We're getting better at it, but I guarantee there is going to be some things that are going to go wrong, and we're going to get lost somewhere, or we're going to go to the wrong thing, or we're going to ask the wrong person. You have to still maintain a decently good attitude. Take it easy on yourself. Of course, you can't always be cheery about everything. Give yourself that 10 minutes to complain to your roommate about something, but then make the effort to stop complaining and remind yourself about this unique opportunity in this beautiful country. We would be unrealistic to say that everything is going to go smoothly, but one of the rules of thumb with India is what you go in with, the attitude you come in with, is probably going to yield right back to you exactly what it is that you expect. So if you're expecting that it's beautiful and colorful and wonderful and kind people, that is what you will see. There are certainly sides of India that are less positive than that. And we are aware of them, and we can acknowledge them, and then we can still move on. Upcoming dates, I expect to have the group finalized by April 15th, May 1st, something like that. You will know, before you have to make a deposit, you will know whether you're actually going on the program or not. We will ask $500 to be deposited with the business office on May 15th. On May 31st, we will require two things. We will either require you to have purchased travel insurance, or we will require you to have filled out the waiver saying that you're not purchasing travel insurance. That is an extra measure of safety this year. On the same date, on May 31st, we will ask you to have, there's a J-term policy sheet that we will ask you to have signed and returned. By September 30th, we will ask for the balance of the money to be paid to the business office. This is a soft deadline. It's going to be about $2,000. We'll know better, at that time exactly how much it is, but it's going to be about $2,000, which is a lot of money, and not everybody has it at the drop of a hat like that. Maybe something happened to your summer plans. You didn't make the money you were supposed to make. Just be in touch with us. This is a soft deadline, and we are open to payment plans or whatever needs to happen. But by September 1st, I need your passport. I need you to scan in the face of your passport, like the information page of your passport. September 1st, I need that. I need you to either photocopy and get it to me or scan it in and send it to me. I need that information to make certain reservations, like the train reservations, for example. I need that information. The passport must expire after May of 2022. So please make sure that you have it by September 1st. I will not allow anybody to turn it in to me after that date. It's too important. That is a deadline that I'm telling you right now. It's too important to let go. There's no flexibility in this one. September 1st, have your passport or you're out. It's too important. We will have inoculations that we will require, not really require, but you really ought to get certain inoculations. We'll have that list. You can start getting the inoculations as late as December 1st. If you feel like this program is a fit for you, then please send me an email at mwinsel@carthage.edu, and then I will send you the application. And it's pretty short, just a little bit of information about yourself. Once you submit the application, I will set up a Zoom session and we can have an interview, and you can ask any more specific questions that you have at that time. And then we'll go from there. I've already gotten a few inquiries, so the good news is we're running this program for the next 3 years in a row. So we will be prioritizing seniors and then juniors, and making sure that everybody has the opportunity to go. If you're accepted into the program but you're still at the sophomore level, we might ask you, would you be willing to go in the 2023 program instead of the 2022 program? Just a brief overview of the itinerary. We land in Delhi late in December. At the moment, it looks like we'll be starting off December 27th. There's a few reasons why we go as early as that, and we can get into that. But it does mean that we'll be spending New Year's in Delhi. So I apologize if you have a New Year's tradition with your family or your friends. You're going to have to miss it this year, but you'll be celebrating in Delhi with us. I don't know what that looks like. We'll see. It might be super fun. So we spend about 5 days in Delhi. We take an overnight sleeper train to Varanasi, and then we spend 7 days in Varanasi. We are going to have an activity pretty much every single day. For example, we will have one day where we leave Delhi, we travel to Agra to the Taj Mahal, and then we come back. That's going to be our longest day trip. Most of our activities will be on the order of just a few hours, leaving you some flexibility to explore other places that you might want to go to, for example. So examples of activities that we would do, we could travel to clinics or hospitals if that is something that is of interest to you. We do volunteer work at a hospital in Varanasi. We will visit the Burning Ghats in Varanasi. We can do a walking tour in Delhi that is a food tour. It's a little pricey, but it might be worth doing. Walking tours that explore food actually tell you quite a lot about the culture of a city. There's another day in Delhi where we would be going to Red Fort and Humayun's tomb. There's also a day that we will be going to the Gandhi Museum and the memorial there in that area of Delhi. And a nice quiet area of Delhi, by the way. What does the cost of $2,500 cover? Airfare, hotel, all dinners. We sit down and have dinner together every evening. Breakfast is also included in the hotel cost. Unless you want to go out and get your own breakfast, you can just have the hotel breakfast, which is always delicious. Some lunches will be included. If we are on an outing and we all sit down and have lunch together, then lunch will probably be a group cost. All group outings will be covered. For example, when we go to Red Fort, we cover the cost of admission to the Red Fort, and then there's an audio tour which we recommend, and that's about $10, so that will be included in the cost as well. We will also give you $200 of walking around money, which should be enough. It's enough for you to buy your own bottled water, snacks, sodas, lunches perhaps, or a breakfast if you want to go out away from the hotel for breakfast. All of that can be included. Any little knickknacks that you want to purchase and bring home, be careful not to buy too many things and stuff your bag. And all of your clothes. This shirt here, beautiful shirt, $9, which is really expensive in my opinion for a shirt. Most of the shirts that I buy in India cost about $2 to $3. But I'm going to be buying more of these, and I will take you to the shop if you want to go there and buy some, because I found this to be a really high quality shirt that has lasted me a long time now, and it's so beautiful. I'm going to be buying like 5 of them. Anyway, so that $200 is going to cover anything like that, snacks, things like that. If towards the end of the trip we find that we have a surplus where we haven't spent up, which happened last time, we had about $150 per student left at the end. We ended up giving a portion of that to students. They kind of voted like, yes, we would like to have access to that, because a lot of students had run out of their $200. So we gave them another, I don't remember, it was like $50, something like that, so that they would have a little bit more money to spend. And you could make the decision to keep that as US dollars or go ahead and exchange it into rupees. It would be up to you at that point. I believe on this particular trip that we will be flying through either Zurich or Munich. Zurich, Switzerland, or Munich, Germany. And it will be a long layover in either of those places, I think, based on kind of, these are the 2 different flights that I'm watching right now for cost. Investigated the situation. We have a long enough layover, and the city is accessible enough from the airport that you could, if you wanted to, leave the airport, go into the city, have a little bit of an outing, and then come back to the airport within a few hours. And we would have plenty of time for you to do that. When my husband and I went on our exploratory trip, we flew through Iceland and we took it was like a 7-hour layover, and we hopped in a cab and went to the Blue Lagoon, and we had a nice swim in the Blue Lagoon and then went back to the airport. And so we definitely know that it's possible to do this. I'm not sure that I would be doing it, but if there's a group of students going, probably my husband or myself, one of us would probably go with you. Anyway, if you do choose to do that, that would be your own cost. And these are expensive countries, and so you would have to allow for that. Like, that would be on your own cost. One of the less common questions that I get, but it is a very good one, I do occasionally get asked this: what is the actual expectation for getting a grade in the class? About 50% of your grade, I believe it's exactly 50% of your grade, will be participation. Being there, being present, outside of the days that you might have to stay back because you're feeling a little, like you need a mental health break or you're feeling a little bit sick. That's totally fine. Like, you don't have to do absolutely everything. However, for the most part, we do have certain activities that we will be asking students to participate in, and you have to do them. They are worth actual points for the class. And it's easy points, you know what I mean? Like, basically, if you're a relatively positive presence and you show up to the things and you participate, you should be getting those points. Additionally, you will be producing a paper, which is about another 30% of the grade. You'll notice, of course, that we are actually leaving prior to the time that the J term is scheduled to begin. It usually begins about January 5th. We will be leaving about December 27th, which means that we get home by about January 13th or so. And therefore, we don't actually hold any class sessions prior to going. We simply meet at O'Hare Airport and then go. So the requirements for the class prior to leaving will be due earlier in December, I would say December 15th-ish. You would have developed a short statement, a paragraph or a page of information based on an idea that you want to explore. You want to keep it, it's kind of a balance. You want to keep it open enough that you might be able to change it in a slightly different direction once you get there and realize the reality of what you're asking may have to shift. So you don't want it too narrow so it's unshiftable, but you also want something that is, relatively narrow. You are required, as part of writing your paper, to interview at least one person who lives in India and ask them some questions pertaining to your particular idea. When we get back to the States, you will be given a rubric to write a final paper, which will be, forgetting right now, and I can't find the old syllabus, but it's like 25 to 30% of your grade, something like that. So those are the expectations for establishing a grade. We do expect students will probably get a pretty high grade. I will certainly work with you if you're a little bit iffy on writing the paper. I'll give you plenty of opportunity to rewrite that thing. The idea is to help you to explore the idea better and not so much producing a perfect paper, for example. Well, that's about what I had to tell you. That answers most of the most commonly asked questions. There's lots more little details that will come about as we choose our final group, and as we start to disseminate more information, some more details will come out, of course. But this answers a lot of the questions that are commonly asked by students who are simply curious about how it goes, safety, food, and things like that, weather, things like that. Take care, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye. All right, so this is Dave. He's the guy. He's the co-chaperone.
Well, hello. I am Maggie's husband. I look forward to meeting all of you and having some good times over in India. All I would say is keep an open mind. Both me and my wife are very well traveled, and India is a unique place to travel and get around. It's quite shocking at first, so just keep an open mind. Understand you need to acclimate a little bit, and in the end, you'll look back on it finally and say, that was a really cool trip I did. Glad I went. Never been another place like India. So just remember that as we get there, and look forward to having fun with everybody.